Hello, everyone, and welcome to this beautiful Monday on Adobe Live. My name is James Bonanno, and I am so excited to kick off the first day of this week's creative challenge in Premiere Pro and After Effects and all things video. It's so great to be back here teaching what I love and my passion, which is creating videos and teaching you how to do the same. So whether you're joining us over here on Behance, Annika, Lolita, Laura, Robert, Patrick, the whole gang is over here joining. If you are just checking out this video on the Creative Cloud YouTube, Adobe Live's YouTube channel, leave a comment and you will see in the description of that YouTube video the starter file so that you can follow along with me today as we go and dive into our first challenge of the week, which is all about audio. No video is complete, in my opinion, and a lot of the times the audio and the sound design, the music, all the little tips and tricks to create the best video possible, you need audio to do that. And so on our first day to kick the week off, we are going to be diving into a little sound design lesson, show you how I source that sound design, how you can stack those different sound effects, how you can incorporate music into your video to make it feel as dynamic as possible. So whether it's a YouTube video, whether it's a short for Instagram, YouTube Shorts, TikTok, you name it, the world of video is so vast, and we want to make sure that everyone that is watching that video can feel something with the sound design and the transitions that go along with that. So that being said, I think we only have about 25 to 30 minutes today. So I really want to dive in and make sure that we hit on as much as I can in the time that I have with you today. And as I mentioned, the starter files are in the description, so make sure to download those. I will let everyone know that the footage is not footage that I shot myself. It is footage that is sourced from some other creators who are shooting for a company that I'm doing a little bit of work for. So it would be great if you just used the lesson and the files sort of for your own personal practice and benefit. And if you wanted to incorporate the tricks that I'm teaching you today using your own footage, that would be great. So why don't we get started? I have a project file up right now. That is the project file you will see in those starter files. And I've included some sound effects, some music, and some footage. So it might not look as robust as what you're looking at right now, but for the most part, it should be pretty similar. So why don't we just start and kick things off with a playback of a little montage that I made for a YouTube sort of real short situation. So this is about 16 seconds long as a montage in 16:9 format. And the important thing that I want to play back is the sound design behind what I'm doing here. So I'm just going to play that really quickly so we can get a sense of all the different sound effects that I used for this specific video. And then we're going to reverse engineer it, play some of them back, and show you how to make your videos as robust as possible. So let's just give it a playback. Okay, we're gonna make it full screen, tilde on my keyboard if I'm on a Mac. Uno, two, tres, Cool. So a lot going on there and a very short window to really build that tension and build just some suspense. So I think the first thing, if we're talking about just basic sound design and the ideas behind creating sound effects for your videos, is when you're shooting something, whether it's drone footage like this or you're out shooting a separate video, it's important to, as a video creator, to really think about the sounds that could be associated with that clip. In this case, the drone does not actually pick up audio on the actual camera. So all of our sound design has to be added in post. It has to be added here in Premiere Pro using sound effects that maybe we've recorded before, using risers and different things through Epidemic Sound, Artlist, and a few that are built right in here to Premiere Pro. So I'm constantly thinking about what a transition might sound like, what the sounds of a bike wheel or a tire might sound like. And if I'm not recording that in camera, I have to add that and try to really beef that video up as best as I can. Okay, so if I'm gonna come in here, I'm actually gonna mute the music for a second because sometimes the music becomes a little overpowering and the viewer loses all of the other little moments that are happening with only hearing the music. So I'm gonna come in here And as you can see, I've stacked a lot of sound effects on top of each other, and that's what we're going to go over today. So here's my music track. I'm going to mute this or solo it just to make sure that is the music. Okay, really, really cool little track that I have here. I'm going to reveal this in the, not the Finder, in my project window. Reveal in my project so I can see what I'm using. And this song I sourced from Artlist, which is a copyright-free music site that I pay for. If you do not, and you have a Adobe Creative Cloud subscription, you can come in here to your audio panel. So if we browse here, you can actually search, let's just search like rock. And there's all these different tracks that you can sample yourself inside of Premiere Pro that are working in partnership with Epidemic Sound, which is another site that I use a lot. So a lot of the songs that you might want to use are right here in Premiere Pro. You can sample them. If you like it, you'll see these little three dots, and you can actually add it to your project or you can save it to your library. So it's very convenient. You don't even have to leave Premiere Pro. Okay, so I'm going to mute my music track here instead of solo it. And we're going to just play just to hear some of the sound design and the sound effects that I've incorporated into this video. So that's a really cool, very dynamic, different sound. That's almost like a riser. So if I play just that, it creates a little bit of suspense. And what I like about that is I'm using what's called a J cut or an L cut, where I'm cutting my audio, not on the actual cut of the clip, to make sure that I can hear the audio before the next clip. And what that does is it just lets the viewer sort of plan for that next transition. And it allows you to actually transition between the clips using your audio rather than just the visuals. Okay, so that's one clip here. And if I reveal that in my project as well, you will see that that's saved to a folder called risers. I believe you should have this sound effect inside of those starter folders. And I like to use risers. I like to use sort of these overarching intros to really get the viewer's attention and to just start the piece on a high note. Okay, and if we solo some of these right here, you can hear that we have our talent here releasing a drone, and I wanted to hear that drone actually coming out of his hand. And if I solo that, you'll hear that that L cut, that J cut that I'm talking about, is actually coming in before we see this clip, but I think it's a little bit too loud. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in here and press P on my keyboard on a Mac, and that's going to bring up the pen tool. And if I press Shift plus or Shift minus, that will minimize and expand my timeline so I can better adjust the keyframes and the points of my audio. So the pen tool acts as the same sort of leveler to keyframe these points so I can take the audio down. So I'm going to press and create some points on this audio, and I'm just going to transition this in. So this is basically my way of fading in the actual points on my track. So you can do it that way, or if I press Command Z, you can come in here and you can right click and you can just apply a default transition, which is that sort of constant power. And then I can drag this to the desired length that I want it. So if I press solo again, play that back, that's a little abrupt for me. So I'm going to delete that. And I prefer to use the pen tool. I just think it gives me a little bit more flexibility. And as an editor, you want to have as much flexibility as possible when working with audio and video. Cool. So now we've had a nice gradual transition here. Okay. So one little trick, the pen tool, again, if you don't see the pen tool, it's right here in your window. And this is a very powerful tool for you to adjust your volume. Now, in your project that you've set up, if you don't see these volume bars, what you're going to do is click into your audio, show your clip keyframes, and make sure that your volume and your level is selected. So this way we can actually adjust those levels individually inside the timeline. And if you don't have it expanded, so I'm going to press Option and minimize this, you won't actually see that level until you have an expanded window. So just a nice little tip and a nice little point to make your life as easy as possible. And I like to use a bigger monitor so I have more real estate to work with. Okay, so that's our first little tip, just sort of very basic audio editing using the pen tool to adjust these points, okay? And that's going to allow you to not always put the audio directly on that clip. So if I press S, you can see it snaps. And if I hold S off, I can move this wherever I need it to be, okay? So point number one. I have a list up here to make sure I address with you all today because I want to go over so much in here. And again, we are limited on time. Okay, so the first thing I like to do, I go back and forth whether to start with music or start with sound design. In this case, I really liked the music I picked, but I felt like it was, again, overpowering. So I muted the music once I found the right one, and then I just started building the sound design on top of it. So if I play this back, our music is still muted. I'm going to solo. I'm going to keep all of my sound design unsoloed so we can listen to it. Okay, so let's think of this sound right here. Okay, so very, very quick sound, very simple sound here that I actually have sort of cut into 2 clips. And because we're playing it soloed without the music, we can really hear that it sounds a little bit out of place, right? It doesn't quite match because it's so far away. And so how do we want to actually blend that? How are we going to make that sound effect, which is sort of like a rocky, if we reveal this in our project, in case you ever lose your audio in your project, this is like earth rocks falling. The one point I do want to mention is for a video like this, if you didn't record people biking, you didn't record the actual sounds, sometimes it's a little tough to find the exact sound you're looking for, and that's okay. I take that as a bit of a creative challenge, a way to find something else that works and make it fit so that the viewer is tricked into thinking that's what it sounded like. And in this case, I think it fits. We just need to change the levels a little bit. Okay, so I'm going to click on this clip. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into my audio window, my audio panel, if you will. And we're going to go over to edit. And the great thing about the audio panel in Premiere Pro, I've gone over this before, but again, we're talking all audio today, so I want to make sure I hit it once more, is you have a lot of preset functions that you don't really need to know that well to add the effect. So what I mean by that is you would come in here, and I want to make this sound effect feel like it's a little bit more distant than it is right now. So again, if I play this back, I'm going to go I and O, and I have my looper on so we could just listen to this one sound. Okay, it just seems too in your face. It seems too sharp. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on the sound effects button right here. So you have dialogue, music, sound effects, and ambience. And there's really great preset options here in Premiere Pro. So if I drop this down, you'll notice it has all these presets: make distant, have that sound effect from the left, from the right in a large room. In this case, I'm going to click make distant and see what it sounds like. Okay, and you'll notice that in doing that, we've added some heavy reverb. So if I play that back again, okay, that's very heavy reverb and really not exactly what we're going for, but it's getting a lot closer. Okay, so we can go to light reverb. Let's go to outside reverb. Maybe that'll sound a little bit better. That's pretty cool. I think that's sounding a little bit better. And I think we can still take the volume and the volume down on this specific clip. So there's a couple ways that we can go about doing this. I think the benefit of all of Adobe's products, Premiere Pro included, is there's tons of different ways to do the same thing. It's just a matter of preference and sort of what the specific scope of your project is. In this case, let's say I just want to adjust the volume on this one clip. All I'm going to do is drag this down, and you'll notice that my decibels are dragging down with them. So very basic. So let's drag this down to like -20. Let's play it back. Okay, so that's already sounding a lot better than what we had before. And if I come into my effects here and I click this off, right? It's subtle. It's definitely subtle, but it's something. And all these things are going to really add up to the larger video and make it sound that much more realistic and that much more dynamic. Okay, so let's keep on moving down the timeline here, and then we're going to show you how to actually adjust the global volume and the global gain when you're actually finished with the mix, finished with the video, and you're doing your final mix. Okay, so that's one little clip here, and we're going to click the marker off, and we're going to keep going. One other thing I do like to do, which I didn't do in this project, is if you're watching your video back with no audio, so if we mute everything on this track here, we go mute, and we're playing this back with no audio at all, you can start to really like think about what might actually work well in a specific cut. So maybe here, I want to hear like bike landing or the landing of a bike. So I'm going to right click this, and I'm going to actually add a marker here. And what you can do is you can double click into this marker, and you can say audio of bike landing here. And these just give me little notes that I'm able to then reference back once I add that sound design. So I'm giving myself points to reference. And let's just say like 2 seconds. Okay, so now when I'm looking at my timeline, I have this marker right here, and I know visually, okay, cool, this is where the audio of a bike landing will go, or the audio of a transition will go. So all of these are just little hacks and tricks to make you a faster editor and make you appreciate the process even more when you're not getting bogged down on one specific thing. Okay, so mute the track. Mute and solo are your best friends when dealing with audio. I promise you, you're going to be using them a lot, and locking tracks as well. So let's say you are set with this music track. You're just going to come in here and lock it. That way nothing can happen to it. It's not going to move, and you won't lose all the work you've put into it. All right, so let's keep playing. Ooh, that's cool. So we have a couple things happening here. We have a lot of layers. So let's go and look at that. Okay, so we have solo. Okay, that's that landing that I talked about, right? Bike land. And the reason I have that here is because we have that front bike landing. Okay, and I've already adjusted the volume, but if I want to pull that down a little more, I'm going to do the same thing. Come in here, adjust the volume. Cool. That sounds pretty good. And this is almost like a skidded brake. Okay, and again, all these sounds that I found, that I sourced, I gave you in the starter files, but if you're actually looking on your own, all you're going to do, again, Artlist is a paid subscription that I use, so I actually search through different sound effects. Okay, I use the sound effects tab. I can look at wind and water and atmosphere and environment. I can also go into Epidemic Sound, and they have an entire sound effects library as well. So both are very powerful. And if not, you can always create your own sounds. If you have a audio recorder, a Tascam, a Zoom recorder, any sort of audio recorder, even your phone can record amazing sounds that you can then use to build your own sound design in Premiere Pro. So tons of options, tons of ways to do it. It's, again, just a matter of preference. Okay, so here. And I have a nice little transition that I want to look at here. Cool. So this right here, if I solo this track, we have a little like zoom. And the reason I like to include, or a whoosh, sorry, I like to include that is because I speed ramped this clip. And in doing that, naturally we'd maybe hear like the whoosh or the movement of that bike, and I want the sound effects to match what I'm seeing. Okay, and in that case, again, I have a nice whoosh right here. And if we go to my effects controls, I have an effect on it called a low pass. And I'm going to remove that real quick and show you what it sounds like without it. Okay, very, very heavy, but I wanted it to sound a little bit more muffled and muted. So if I go to my effects, we're going to go to low pass. And what low pass does is it just takes a lot of those higher frequencies out of that audio. And now we've added that effect. I'm going to come down here to cut off. And in this case, I'm just going to keep the entire clip as a low pass filter. And if I adjust this and I just play this one section back, I and O, you'll see the more I bring this down, the bassier and the more like muffled that becomes. And it can create a really nice suspenseful sound. Okay. And you can also keyframe this. So you can go from, we'll go later in the timeline, which I did here towards the end. You'll notice that I used it as a method to help emphasize the slowing down of this clip. So I'm going to play this right here. Oops. Let's clear that. Okay. Right. And so you can hear all of these sounds. I used the low pass filter here on this clip, which is just a bike chain. And if we go into my effects controls, I did the exact same thing, added the low pass, and I just added a keyframe. So I went from the sound of the filter without the low pass into low pass. And then once the bike speeds up, we go back to a normal sound again. Okay, so all of these little building blocks help you to really, like this is kind of a cool sound here. I'm going to solo this. Cool. And this right here, if I go Command J, that speed is the same. So this is a much faster, and maybe I want to slow that down. So I'm going to right click and go to speed and duration, and I'm going to go to 80. Cool. And I think that's maybe actually let's go to 70. So you can slow these sound effects down and they can create totally different moods and feels for those clips. Okay. It's just, I tend to have so much fun in the sound design of a video because it's the second part that you work on, but I tend to work on them sort of simultaneously. Video and sound and audio go hand in hand. Okay. So let's say we're happy with all of these sound effects that we've added. I know we only have about 5 minutes left here. I'm going to save, and I want to show you how to sort of globally adjust these effects so you don't have to think that you're editing each one individually. Okay, so the way that I've laid out these clips is really in no particular order. Okay, but let's say I want this first track. I'm going to unlock this. I want this to be named music. Okay, so you can rename all of your tracks. I want this track to be renamed riser. Okay, so I'm going to move all of these down. Going to drag my other clips down here. So the only thing I have on this track right now is this. Okay, is that riser. And there's a reason behind doing this, and I'm going to show you this in a second here. I'm just going to adjust my timeline here. All right, and then on this clip, maybe I'm going to just call this bike sounds. Okay, I'm going to name my fourth audio track whooshes. Okay, and the more organized you can be with this, the easier your time will be when you're doing the final mixing. Okay, so we have our music, we have our riser. Let's solo these. That's a good bike sound. Okay. Bike sound, bike sound, bike sound. And this is more of like let's go here. Let's actually call this ambience. I like to add a little bit of ambience, so like the natural wind in the background. All right, so these are all bike sounds here. Okay, so this is how I would start to set up your tracks so that when you're ready to mix, you've added all your sound effects. What you would do, it also makes it a lot easier to add effects to these sounds. So basically, if I come up here, I'm in the audio panel, I'm going to go to Audio Track Mixer. Okay, and what you'll see is all of these audio tracks. I can see now the name that I've named it. Music, riser is on audio 2, bike sounds, ambience, etc. If I come in here and I play this back, let's see. You can see that every one of these tracks is the corresponding clip that we see below. Okay, and all I'd have to do if I had more risers on this track and I wanted to just solo this, I could play this back, and if it's too loud, all I have to do is adjust the entire track with just the click of sort of this mixing button here. Okay, so this allows you to take global edits and actually adjust the volume. Let's say we want to adjust the volume of just this track here, but we don't want to do it manually inside of our window. All we'd have to do is unmute this. We're going to come up here. Okay, and now our music is starting to get mixed with the sound effects so we can hear both at the same time. Okay, if we're looking to maybe amplify the volume of, let's go up in here real quick. This is our, where are we at here? We're going to just solo this. Okay, so let's say I want to amplify the gain of this. I'm going to go to my audio gain, and I can normalize the max peak. So basically, like the maxed peak that I want, let's say I set that at -3, and I play that back, and I look at my decibel window, you'll notice that the max of that is not going to go above -3. Okay, so all these little tips and tricks inside of the audio window, again, are going to make your life a lot easier. If I wanted to add an effect to this music right here, I could come up here. I could add compression. I can add some reverb to the music. Let's see what that does. So if I turn solo off. Okay, so now I have a reverb that's on the actual music track. And you can just have fun with adding different effects that would then adjust the global track instead of just that clip. Okay, so I know today we covered as much as I possibly could in the 25 minutes that I had. But the most important thing I want you to remember when you're editing your videos is that audio is equally as important and should not be overlooked. It is so critical to one, again, have fun with editing your audio to the video, but it's also important to really think about that as you're shooting, especially in the edit. Think about what transitions might sound really cool, what you can create outside of Premiere and bring in, what you can source from Epidemic Sound, from inside of your window right here in Premiere Pro, how you can add effects to really amplify those videos. And again, have fun with it. The process of editing video is a blast. It should be. And overall, you should want people to feel something when you're watching your videos, whether they're for YouTube, Instagram, the big screen, television, whatever it is. Audio is extremely important. And I hope that you took away a couple tips from today's creative challenge. So thank you, everyone, for joining me on this wonderful Monday. Make sure to download the starter files, practice at home, and come join me tomorrow at the same time. And we are going to be talking about creating reels and short form content in today's environment and how to do that the most efficiently. So again, thank you everyone on Behance. Thank you on YouTube for joining me on Monday, and I will see you tomorrow. Take care, everyone.